Welcome to 2023, everyone. It's a new year, and that means there are a few things you can be excited about for this upcoming year. So first up is a game that I think came out late last year. In fact, I really don't know much about it. I just saw some miniatures of it, and because it's giant stompy robots, my brain automatically assumes it's going to be awesome. And that would be Steel Rift. Since pretty much everybody who talks miniature wargame on YouTube wants to make their own game, shameless self-promotion. Oh, also there, and that guy right up there. This particular one comes from Ash Barker from Guerrilla Miniatures Games. And like I said, for me, I just saw the miniatures. I'm like, this looks awesome. I know nothing about the rules. I'm dead serious about that. For me, it's just a matter of prioritizing scheduling and budget to try this game out, but I certainly want to sometime this year. And now, like I said, a smart person would probably go and watch a battle report before spending money on it. But once again, giant stompy robots. So even if the game ends up being absolutely terrible, well, we've got another set of miniatures that are pretty much look to be as good as the current Battletech line. And that just means, at the very least, you got more awesome Battletech miniatures. Continuing on the theme of people on YouTube who talk about miniature wargaming, or in this case play a lot of Warhammer 40k, making their own miniature wargaming, we've got Ravaged Star, the tabletop miniatures game by Mini Wargaming. Now this is their, quote, second attempt at making a miniature wargame. The quotations there, this is like 10 years ago, they made this thing called Dark Potential, raised about a little under $90,000 over on Indiegogo. Produced the miniatures, but officially, according to statements later on, their intention was never to make a full tabletop miniatures game, but whatever. Anyway, jump forward quite a few years, and they launched something called the Veil Touch, a line of miniatures over on GameFound. Now, these guys are totally not Chaos Space Marines, but they do look freaking awesome. Of course, being myself, not caring at all about Chaos Space Marines, I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to them, but late this year, Dave announced that they're going to be turning this thing into a full-on tabletop miniatures game. We've now seen 2 additional factions, Space Dwarves, and these cool-looking Tyrannid bug, not quite Tyrannid-looking things. There's some pretty cool-looking miniatures there. Well, the details are fairly scarce at the moment about the actual gameplay of Ravaged Star. It's probably going to be a 40k-ish type game, but even that doesn't really mean a whole lot because, frankly, 40k... Star Wars Legion, Bolt Action, Beyond the Gates of Antari, Flames of War, they're all basically very different games, even though they kind of derive themselves from roughly the same rule set. I think, though, we should be able to expect a complete battle report at the actual launch of the campaign, because that's how those kind of things should work. Now, however, what wasn't expected, as we dive into some culture war stuff here, because, you know, why not just... it's probably important to mention it, was the use of some interesting iconography on the cards. So see that little fist symbol right there? In the modern day, that particular icon tends to be associated with the Black Power hand gesture, and it's also periodically used by revolutionary communist groups like Antifa. However, the most likely explanation of this is that our friends of the South really are not aware of what this icon is actually used for today, because we're really getting in the weeds of the US culture war, and I wouldn't expect most people in this country really know what's going on, let alone people in some other country. And that kind of confused you a little bit. Did you know that the first country due south of the United States is actually Canada? And related to that, the Detroit River is actually a strait. Boom, mind blowing. The original Space Marine video game was so much fun. It was absolutely awesome. It's a nice mix of old school first-person shooter action done in the cinematic style of Gears of War, and I loved every moment of it, including that ridiculous end boss battle sequence where you're kind of falling through that debris of the temple or whatever it was, all shattered in space. You're jetpacking down and punch him in the face. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous, but it was awesome nonetheless. So when I finally saw that a sequel to this game was announced, I was super excited and had to keep an eye on it. So hopefully this time around they keep the same basic gameplay, because that was awesome. Keep that cinematic Gears of War feel, because that's still awesome. And even better this time, they're adding in Tyrannids. And as a bonus, I would love to see some co-op play in addition to, you know, the actual multiplayer shooting stuff they kind of had first time around. And I don't think you could possibly lose. I'm sure somebody's going to complain about that, but that's what I want the game to be like. So, but given that the release date is only 2023, Maybe we'll see it this year, maybe not. I'm really hoping we will. And the thing that I am most excited about this year, because it's still one of my most favorite tabletop miniature games ever, is the upcoming Battletech Mercenaries Kickstarter. Now, this is just a Kickstarter. I imagine it's going to go on into, 2024. So I got an item to talk about in 2024, and the miniatures actually show up. But of course, this is going to be the next major Kickstarter for Battletech. Presumably, it features the mercenary companies, as the name might suggest. I would like to see some more stuff from the Ilcon era, but the fact we're getting vehicles is really awesome, even though I'm probably one of 16 people who think that's awesome. I know a lot of people who play Battletech are like, tanks suck, screw them, I don't want them. But I do like vehicles, because it makes the game a little bit more interesting. And it would be kind of cool. I don't think we're going to see them just quite yet, but I would, as I mentioned, some Ilcon stuff, I would like to see some of the mechs from that era. Like, the Savage Wolf. I really want one of those because I want to paint up a Lark Wolf's mech on this channel, and there's not a Savage Wolf miniature available. I mean, granted, there's the old, I think it's Iron Wind Metals one, but that one's just really ugly. I'm not painting that one up. A redesigned one would be absolutely incredible. And, yeah, no, I do want to see some of the Jade Falcon bird mechs. Now that everybody hates me... That is number one thing I'm most excited about for this year is Battletech Mercenaries Kickstarter. And for one bonus thing for Catalyst Games Lab, I want to congratulate you guys on being able to successfully run a tabletop game company without being addicted to crack that is Kickstarter like so many other companies. Apparently it's done incredibly well according to statements they've released, and that's awesome. Alright, so let's talk about a few bonus items that might be fun this year as well. Star Wars Shatterpoint. Let's start here. It could be cool. I'm not a big Star Wars super fan like some people, in fact a lot of people are. I do have a figure sitting here right here for... Well, that was Sabine Wren for Star Wars Legion. She's now on the floor. I'll pick her up later. I'm probably not going to rush out and buy this game, but I know a bunch of people who are going to probably pick up a copy of it, so I'm sure I'm going to get to play it at some point this year, and if it's fun, maybe I'll buy into it. We'll see how things go. Next up, last year, Catalyst Games Labs launched their Leviathan's Kickstarter. I think that game is going to ship at some point this year. I did not buy into the Kickstarter at the time, and the only reason I didn't, because I don't really know anybody who would also want to play the game. So hey, if I find some players for the game in one of the local game stores, maybe I'll pick this one up. I do, as you saw before on this channel, I do have the original one, and it wasn't a half bad game, so I wouldn't mind trying it again. And this time, I don't think it got quite to that funding level, but it would be kind of cool to see the US fleet come out for it. And finally, the other bonus little thing here, well, there's War Machine 4th Edition. Now, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with War Machine. I know years ago we gave it the Game of the Year in the Tabletop Battlefield podcast because I love the universe. I love the, what do you even call it? The miniatures are, of course, incredibly amazing. The rules are even pretty good. I just never ended up liking, after playing it a bunch of times, the whole kind of strategy and meta of it. It's sort of like... So I very briefly read through the beta edition of 4th edition, if that makes sense. It does seem to be mostly War Machine. I don't really know 3rd edition well enough to know exactly what changed. But what I think I might do at the very least is pick up the new Signar starter set when it's a little more readily available, at least just to paint up the miniatures, because once again, the miniatures are still pretty awesome. And Privateer Press is switching over to 3D printed resin, which is a very interesting business choice to make. And I'll be curious to see how they handle that. Well, that is my list of things I'm looking forward to in 2023. If you guys got anything different that I might have missed, go ahead and post them down in the comments below. It'll be fun to take a look at it. As for this channel, got some more paint tutorials coming up. I do need to get the last ant weight video done. The robot's been done for 6 months. I just botched the video and haven't re-recorded it. And as from that, I don't know, we'll see where things go. I've got to work on getting this whole project finally finalized. I know I talked about that last year and New Year's and it didn't go anywhere. But I'll finish it up for sure. All right. Thank you guys all for watching and have a great 2023.